All right, turning now to the terror attack in New York. As we've been reporting, 29-year-old Sayfullo Saipov is in critical condition in a New York hospital tonight after being shot by New York City police officers. Saipov is suspected of killing 8 people and injuring many more when he mowed them down in what appears to be a copycat attack of similar tragedies committed in the name of ISIS around the world. Saipov is a citizen of Uzbekistan, the most populous country in Central Asia, where 88% of the population is Muslim. Saipov came here 7 years ago. We're told he has a green card, and essentially that's lawful permanent residence by non-U.S. citizens. Said to be liked by those who knew him. He was variously a commercial truck driver or an Uber driver or both, depending on reports. And apparently he left a note, at least one, maybe 2, and carried out the attack in the name of ISIS. Our next guest sponsored a bill that would make it more difficult for refugees and others emigrating from other terrorist hotspots to enter the U.S. Virginia Republican Congressman Dave Brat joins us live. Good to see you tonight, sir.
Hey, great to be on. Congratulations, Shannon.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's talk about what you've proposed and what you think Capitol Hill could do. We don't know all the particulars of this, young man, but we know apparently he came here legally through the right path and pipeline to get this green card. He's not an offender. He's not breaking laws, at least with respect to immigration.
Right. Yeah, but it's kind of the worst case scenario in terms of rational policy that should be in place. And so Paul Ryan promised us this year we'd have 5 of Chairman Goodlatte's bills passed through for a floor vote, including E-Verify and some chain migration stuff, internal enforcement. And then this particular case, in the past 20 years, there have been 2 million green cards coming from the Middle East alone, right? And so the President Trump and some of us who've been working on immigration forever, he wanted to vet people, especially coming from high-risk countries. So this should clearly fall into that pattern. So 2 million people coming in, and after 9/11, immigrants from the Middle Eastern countries are the fastest growing demographic. So you have your political elites to thank for that. We're not doing our job, right? It's not a question of religion. It's high-risk countries. And so the second piece that the president put in was written very well. And so we need to, I think the president weighed in today forcefully, and we need to stop the war before it comes here. And it's here.
Well, and the president said this in one of his many tweets tonight. He said, "I have just ordered Homeland Security to step up our already extreme vetting program," all caps.
Right.
Being politically correct is fine, but not for this.
Right.
And you worry that that's happened too much on Capitol Hill and has led us to these numbers and these situations where we're not saying everyone coming into the country is bad. You're not saying that, but you're saying there's got to be a vetting process. How can we do that when we're talking about tens of thousands, even more than that every single year? How can we look through their social media, examine their backgrounds, their families, what activities they may have been involved in? I mean, that sounds impossible.
Yeah, well, and you raise it in the right way, right? Where's the burden? Immigration is not a right, right? It's a privilege. We are a country of immigrants. That's not the question. We have 1 million immigrants come in every year legally, like you say. But since 9/11, we're all on a new sense of alert. And so the burden is on the folks who want to come in, right? We have to prove in some of these countries, right, if you go to Somalia, et cetera, they don't have a database, right? So it makes vetting very hard. But the burden is clearly on them, right? We got to get to kind of a more merit-based system where people are job ready. They have a resume. We know who they are. They're safe. They like the United States of America. That's not too much to ask. And we've always been a welcoming country. And so we just have to do our job. And then you would think after this last year, right, immigration, it kind of is separable a little bit from some of this vetting. But it's not too much to ask to do policy that's good for the American people, right? So when you do immigration policy, a lot of, there's some huge crony interests in the city. They want cheap labor.
Well, and you and I were talking earlier about E-Verify, because to a lot of average Americans out there, that sounds like this is the system that would make employers who are hiring people use the system so they can verify Social Security numbers are legit, these people are who they say they are, and they're truly citizens, or they're here legally to work. But there are folks on the other side of the hill, not on the other side of the aisle necessarily, who, these are Republican senators who say they don't want E-Verify to be part of a big immigration package. Why?
Yeah, well, because they only run every 6 years and they're not listening to the American people. So some of us on the House are a little critical of that. Trump won on that issue. I won somewhat on that issue. The American people overwhelmingly want something done there, right? So folks come across the border. They're all, predominantly from, Mexico, South America, et cetera. They're all Catholic. They're all children of God. There's no question on that. But they, on average, they have a 10th grade education. They'll make $20,000. If you got 2 kids in school, that's $26,000. You're upside down before you even started the conversation, right? So, of course, if you add a worker, it's good for the economy in that sense. the economy grows. But most people care about GDP per capita after you pay your taxes and transfer payments. And the average American, it's not lost on them. They're losing in this setup, and so we got to get it right for them.
And a lot of people think when we watched your race, when you upended then Minority Leader Eric Cantor in the primary GOP primary race, that it was about immigration, that people wanted you to come here and do what you've been trying to do. But even within the GOP, there are disruptions and disagreements about exactly how you get there. I mean, I was joking around with you and Senator Graham earlier before you both came on the show to say, hey, we've got two of you here. You're not exactly on the same page about immigration. How do you get there within your own party, never mind across the aisle?
Well, you got to listen to the American people. Even the Democrats in Virginia, we got an interesting horse race going on. Ed Gillespie's catching steam quick at the end here, and I think is going to pull out a win. And some of it hinges on this issue. The Democrats have been doing so much identity politics, race and gender, calling names, just horrific commercials going on in Virginia right now.
Very disturbing commercials.
And I think there's going to be a reaction against that, right? So it's gotten so bad, some of the Democrat operatives say, we got to go more Bernie. We got to just go back to class warfare, right? And they're probably right on that, right? If you get back to economic issues, I'll be a little more nervous. But they're losing on the identity politics, right? And the American people want to move beyond that. So 47% of Democrats, I think, listed immigration as one of the most important issues in the last week in the polling. And so with incidents like this, people zoom in, focus on this lottery, right? This guy came in on this refugee lottery system, which lottery, right? It's random. We should be very rational about these policies.
Well, we'll watch and see what progress you make.
We will.
Over there on the Hill.
Right.
Congressman Brat, great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks. Congrats again, Shannon. It's great.